Welcome to the new CAD Cleanup Command. The Cleanup Command basically takes imported CAD files and turns them into usable data ready for data prep, modeling and takeoff purposes. Let's run the command. It's in the data prep menu. You'll find it here in the cleanup group. And when you run the command, basically we've got an imported CAD file. Sometimes you'll get the CAD data. It's got data down at 0, 0. It's got data up near the project. Sometimes these are so far apart it's hard to find the data. Just hit the next button. That will show you the first object. Click it again and it will take you to the next object in the data set. Now you've found your data. You can zoom out until you find the project area that you're interested in. And at that point we can open up define views, and then we can create a view, and this saves the viewport, the actual zoom level setting, and also the layer settings that are current on this view. This allows you to rapidly recall that data later on should you need it. Now we've defined a view. Now we can start off with the first step. This is a three-step process. The first step is exploding blocks. You can either pick blocks in the list and explode selected, or you can just select explode all, and that will explode every nest level fully automatically. When we look down the list, you can click on individual layers here and it will zoom extents, go to the next level and it will zoom extents and show you the actual contents of each block. What we're looking for here typically is blocks that have large numbers of items with blocks embedded and have been only used once. We can explode those extremely quickly, and that gets rid of XREF information, gets rid of right block information from AutoCAD, and allows you to reduce the data down to manageable, workable data. If you just want to explode everything, just hit the explode all button and that will capture all of the blocks and explode them all fully automatically. Okay, so on completion of exploding the blocks, you get a quick report at the bottom here, and that report can be highlighted, copied and pasted into the drawing, or it can be copied and pasted into a notepad or a Word document if you need to, so you can keep a record of all the cleanup functions that actually happened. Now we've exploded all the blocks, everything in here now is single line or single text object line work, and we can now start working on the next step. The next step is to clean up all of the sort of standard issues that you get with CAD files. We can pick all objects automatically. We can delete AEC objects, we can get rid of zero length lines, we can take all text and convert it to stroke fonts. That will improve the graphic speed, reduce the regenerations, and just generally improve the operations. You can convert text to multiline text. That makes the text editable using the grips, and also allows you to add smart text elements to those text items should you need to. You can delete all the CAD empty layers and get rid of those. You can make low elevations undefined. So in other words, if you've got objects in here which have got a 0 elevation, you can make them undefined. And if there's points with elevation in between 0 and the project elevation, you can also put in a tolerance here or elevation value here, and everything below that value will get set to undefined. You can also remove block visibility status. Obviously with AutoCAD files these days you can get blocks and they can have visibility states. If they have visibility states, when you explode the blocks you can get multiple elements that are hidden from view before you explode the data. This command fixes all those kind of issues so that if you explode the blocks later on, it gets rid of that information so that it doesn't appear when you explode the blocks. In addition, when you bring in AutoCAD files often have plan set data, or they have paper space information that we import along with associated Dynaviews, and again we can pick that object type data and delete it automatically, and that will clean up our project explorer and get rid of this kind of base file CAD information where the sheet sets and plan sets come in from the CAD file. When we're ready to explode everything and remove everything, we can just hit clean up miscellaneous items and that will eliminate all of that data. Okay, so that information has been sorted out now. So we've got rid of solids, faces, we've got AEC items deleted, we've got zero length lines removed, we've got text styles set to stroke fonts. These are the fonts that have been changed. You've got 20,500 text objects updated. You've removed 5 empty layers and you've got rid of 1 set of plans in the information plus its associated Dynaviews, and 71,000 objects have been set to undefined elevation, and 7 text items have been converted, and invisible items have been removed from no blocks. In this case there's no visibility state blocks in this project. We've still got the block information at the bottom from the first stage of this process. Now we're ready to go to stage 3, which is the layers function. And in the layers function you can basically set up what we call user defined rule sets, and those rule sets allow you to take imported CAD layer names and map them to layer groups and also map them to takeoff categories automatically. In this case, you can define any number of rule sets. You can pick the rule set that you want to apply. You can go to the View Filter Manager and you'll see that the traditional imported CAD file, this has got no layer groups so far, and all of our layers have come in here, and they're using the National CAD standards. So they're using the C- for civil, A- for architectural, V- for topo, etc. And we can take that information and automatically map it to layer groups by just defining a rule set, and you can see the effect of the rule set prior to committing to processing layers. Let's process the layers. And this information is now being processed. Again, it captures the information up here, and now you can see over here on the View Filter Manager you've got different layer groups along with some layers that were not mapped. So in this case now we've got all the different layers grouped into nice logical groups. So if I turn off all the layers, for example, and let's just take a look at, let's say, take a look at civil roads. There's our roads, road markings, curb and gutter. If we want to go to, for instance, the grading objects, there's our buildings and houses. If we go to the architectural, there's our architectural information. If we turn on the civil group, then we can see our civil, and all of this information is separated from the annotation. And now we can see that very quickly I can now work with these layer groups nice and easily. If I turn off everything again and just turn on the utilities, here's my storm sewer network, here's my water network, here's my sanitary sewer network, and then here's additional utilities for fire, and then there's any additional utility information in here. And then we have things like our general annotation, and then we've got all of our existing information down here. So again, if I turn this off here, if I go down to here, we can turn on our existing layer groups. And you can see that by turning on these layer groups here, we've now got our existing information ready for doing our existing ground survey. Now at the same time, we also map these to these takeoff categories. So if I go to the takeoff menu and look at the categorize function here, all of these layers have been mapped into the layer groups. So we've got our original ground layers, we've got our design layers, we've got our utilities, and everything else is nicely grouped, and that's what we're seeing over here as well. So now we've got everything ready for doing takeoff. Now the surfaces have been built, which is why you see these yellow flags, and so we've already got our existing surface and our finished ground. So let's just take a look at that in 3D. So anything that was in the project that was originally three-dimensional, you've already got some surfaces. And okay, there's some spike data in here that needs to be sorted out, but most of the data is ready to be worked and used for doing the takeoff. And with a little bit of extra work here, we can start eliminating these flags and get down to our finished grade model, which is this data here, which includes all of the house pads and the buildings, etc. And then over here we've got our existing ground survey that came from our original ground survey. So with some changes and some modifications, we've already got data that's ready to go for takeoff. Now in addition to that, if we've got all the information here that we need to work with, we can also now start cleaning up the data a bit more. So there's objects that we don't need in the project, like all this data around the outside here. We can just simply eliminate that. And if we zoom extents, we've got some data somewhere distant over here. We can just get rid of the data that's distant over here. Zoom extents, there's some data over here as well somewhere. And now we've got our project data. We've got a few lines left to get rid of. And now we've got our data down to just what we need to work with for the purposes of this project. Again, if we want to go back to our defined view, we can just click on that now, and it's going to reload the graphics, reload the zoom level, and now we're ready to start work. So CAD Cleanup, extremely fast. In a couple of minutes we've taken a CAD file, layer grouped it, cleaned up all the known CAD issues, and we're ready to start working with our takeoff or our modeling processes.